Here's our big story this week. Donald Trump, who has been talking about more phone calls than the ones that actually happened, has sanctioned two Russian oil firms. These are the biggest Russian oil firms. This is Rosneft and Lukoil, that collectively account for about 50 to 55% of total seaborne oil trade. These two firms account for about 2/3 of the oil that India imports from Russia. And these sanctions will directly impact the orders that will be placed for November and the deliveries that will take place the next month, which is in December. Now, Donald Trump claims New Delhi has assured him of cutting Russian oil imports. He said this much before any of this happened. Listen in to what Donald Trump said, and then we tell you why what the US president said was factually incorrect.
I spoke to Prime Minister Modi today, as I mentioned before, and we just have a very good relationship. And he's not going to buy much oil from Russia. He wants to see that war end as much as I do. He wants to see the war end with Russia, Ukraine. So they've cut it way back, and they're continuing to cut it way back.
Now, viewers, let's be clear about three very important aspects. Now, first and foremost, India has resisted American summons in the past to stop buying Russian oil, even if that meant more tariffs being imposed on us, even if it meant singularly being targeted, because New Delhi refused to bow down to American pressure. Secondly, India was the only one that officially called out the hypocrisy of America when it chose to only target India and not China, which is the largest importer of Russian oil. 47% of Russian crude actually goes to China, as against 38% that is imported by India. And the third important aspect that needs to be kept in mind is, well, it has nothing to do with India. Now, viewers, there is expectation that America is pushing to increase its share in global oil market and ties in well with the larger drill baby drill that is Donald Trump's agenda. In fact, it also opened up almost all of American coastal waters to new offshore oil drilling, all to ensure that the drill baby drill goes on. Now, that may be the agenda, but for that to happen, US and India need to negotiate. They need to have a bilateral negotiation with regard to oil purchases. It cannot take the route of sanctions. It has to be via bilateral trade sanctions, bilateral trade routes, which leaves only one thing, that Donald Trump administration's limited options to end the war in Ukraine is the reason why these sanctions have been put in place. That's the only reason. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has remained very firm that despite American sanctions, he will not bow down to any of America's strong-arm tactics. Listen in to what President Putin had to say. We come back and talk more as to whether this, the final option that Donald Trump has, will actually solve his war problem or not. Listen in.
As for the politics, what do we have here? It is an attempt to exert pressure on Russia. But no self-respecting country, no self-respecting nation will never make any decisions under pressure. And obviously, Russia has this privilege, has this prerogative to be among this list of self-respecting countries and nations.
So Vladimir Putin has made it very clear that he's not going to respond to any of these strong-arm tactics. Well, what can Donald Trump do? He's already said that he would have ended this in 24 hours. He's already been 10 months into his office. Now, irrespective of viewers, whether the much talked about and now delayed summit, the second summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin takes place or not, one thing is clear. This does allow New Delhi to be able to maneuver the present situation and possibly open up its entire oil portfolio, rejig it. But there will not be any long-term impact on the India-Russia relationship, and that's very important to understand. Donald Trump may want it, but it will not happen. And I'll tell you why. Because in less than 6 weeks, President Putin will be in India for the Russia-India summit. In fact, President Putin reaffirmed Moscow's long-standing trust in New Delhi and called the relationship, the bilateral relationship, special and trustworthy. Now, contrast this to a volatile and a very unpredictable Donald Trump, who thinks nothing of ridiculing world leaders at a global stage, always keen to mainstream army chiefs as heads of state. We saw all of that at Sharm el-Sheikh. Now, a Prime Minister Modi and a Donald Trump meeting must happen. Many people have been saying, why isn't it happening now? It will happen. But it will happen when both sides are at a stage of negotiation which provides give and take to each other equally. Both walk away from the negotiating table with equal wins. Until that happens, a meeting cannot and must not happen. Negotiations will continue till the time there are wins on both sides. As far as the Russian oil sanctions are concerned, India will recalibrate its oil portfolio, but not its larger relationship with Russia.